Joining us now, he was the governor of Virginia. He won a big statewide race. He ran on getting rid of the car tax. He had a message. He won in a landslide. And he was the governor of Virginia through 9/11 and was also chairman of the 9/11 Commission, and is also a big Trump supporter and helped run the Virginia Republican and Trump campaign with us in 2016, although we just couldn't overcome 340,000 vote deficit in Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria. But he is with us now. Governor Jim Gilmore, good to have you with us, Governor.
Good morning, John. How are you?
Never better. Okay, I'm going to get right to the bottom line. We can talk politics and policy, but this is what is on everybody's mind. Are you going to run for U.S. Senate in 2018?
Well, look, first of all, I want to make it clear to your listeners that I am by no means settled on making this race. It depends upon a lot of things between now and then, and I'm looking at it and considering it. But I'm running a conservative nonprofit right now called American Opportunity, which is focused on some of the key issues facing the United States, and I think that we're a voice in that area. I don't want to detract from that by entering a race unless there's a likelihood of a victory in that race. So we're taking a look at it right now, John. We have not committed to the race.
So when you say you're looking at it, what factors are going to inspire you either to get in or make up your mind that now this isn't the right thing to do?
Well, it depends upon a lot of things. What I'm really watching right now is the attitude of the people of Virginia towards the race. Tim Kaine, the last poll, has a majority popularity, but I'm not sure that people have really focused yet on his performance as a United States senator. I think that his high profile as a vice presidential candidate, where he joined up with Hillary Clinton, was material. The fact that at the debate in Farmville, he interrupted Vice President Pence 70 times and made it very, very difficult for the debate to really proceed. That was contrary to the sort of the nice guy type of look that he has about him. But I think that the people of Virginia have got to decide what they're looking for in a United States senator, and we're going to be looking very closely at that as the days go on as to whether or not this is the time that the people of Virginia want to seek a change. But to me, I think that what we really have to do is to focus on the opportunity to have somebody on the Armed Services Committee, as the senator is, and on the Foreign Relations Committee that can actually move the country forward. I think it's pretty clear that Donald Trump has inherited an extremely dangerous situation because of inactivity and passivity over the last 8 years. The Korean situation is highly dangerous, very dangerous, because of inactivity over the last number of years. And so as a result, I think that we're entitled to ask, are we getting the kind of representation out of Virginia that really serves the United States?
Okay, so in order to face off with Senator Kaine, you'd have to get through Corey Stewart. I've got him as a prohibitive favorite right now. I mean, honestly, Senator, if you get in the race, how do you beat Corey Stewart? How do you win a Republican primary in this environment that we're in?
Well, first of all, I don't have any bone to pick with Corey Stewart. I'm acquainted with him fairly well. I've never had a fight with him on any matter whatsoever. I think that the question the Republican Party has to ask and the state of Virginia has to ask is whether or not we offer a candidate who has the kind of tone that will be in a position to be appealing to the people across the state and all parts of the state, including Northern Virginia. You pointed out early on that we were massacred, if you will, in the presidential election in places like Fairfax, Arlington, and Alexandria. As you know, I spend most of my time in Northern Virginia now. I know the community very, very well. They don't particularly want to have radical liberal approaches to government, but they will not tolerate someone who implies or sets a tone that is anti-ethnic or a sense that somehow that they don't like people. If there's a sense of that, then the people will vote overwhelmingly against the Republican candidate, and I think that's bad for the country. Because I think that Virginia could be making a real contribution to the nation right now and really isn't. Look at look at the issues on Obamacare. That is something where the free market could make much better choices, and that was defeated with the opposition of Tim Kaine and Mark 1 and 2, for that matter. The president wants to see a tax reform. There's got to be a tax reform in order to improve this economy. Your people in your listening area need to have more jobs and a better economy. They're seeing opposition to tax reform from Tim Kaine. The need right now for building up our Navy and for building up our military in the face of the international challenges is absolutely extreme. It's very important. But yet the senator has been on these committees for years, and we've seen more and more neglect and falling down. So I think the question is, are we going to move forward? And is Corey Stewart the guy to carry that message? I think that remains to be seen. We're still in a gubernatorial race. I'm still supporting Ed Gillespie. I think that he will do a better job, and I'm really focused on that statewide race right now. I'm not so concerned about making a decision about next year.
Do you have a timetable, Governor?
I do. I do not have a timetable, and there's still a lot more to measure before you start setting up at the timetables. So we'll see. And my own priorities in life right now may preclude me from making the race, John. So we'll find out.
All right. So to be determined seems to be your answer as far as taking on Corey Stewart and attempting to be the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in 2018. All right, let's get to policy. Let's start with DACA. Big issue last week. Are you in favor of amnesty or not?
No, I don't favor amnesty. I think that the law has to be adhered to. I think I've tried to think about what bothers conservatives such as myself about the immigration policies. And I don't really send a message of anti-Hispanic sort of attitude. I don't feel that way. But I think that what really has gone on here is a sense in America of fair play. There is a sense that that the law is the law, and it's being challenged and threatened by people. I would like to ask the American left in this country what their immigration policy is. You never can get that answer. They talk about amnesty, but really, is there policy that anybody can get to the United States, whether legally or illegally, with their families or extended families, just gets to be a citizen? Is that their position? If that's the case, then people will be flooding in from all across the world to take advantage of the American taxpayer. But at the same time, I do want to tell you, John, that this country needs the best and the brightest to go forward into the challenges of the 21st century. I think we're actually in a very slow-moving war right now with the threat of terrorism, with the threat of Korea, Russia, China. We're going to need bright young people that want to succeed. The examples are great that there are a number of people among the dreamers who can make a contribution to this country. I think either the law has to be altered to give them a possibility, or they have to adhere to the current law, which means that they have to return to the country where they're a citizen and then apply for an American visa.
You know, that is the rational policy, okay? You have to return and go through the proper channels. We either have the rule of law or we don't. And certainly I'm opposed to amnesty. And, you know, there's got to be some level of accountability here. Just because you came as a child, I mean, your parents have to be square with you and said, look, you're here in the country illegally. This is the decision I made. You know, as parents, sons, and daughters, we got to work through this together. You know, they've never had the conversation. Then they just throw up their hands and say, well, there should be amnesty. So there's really two issues to be grappled with: the 690,000 that are in the DACA program now. When their final work permits expire, do they get amnesty? Do they get to continue? And then do we continue to take applications in and continue the DACA program? I'm opposed to that, because then it's an incentive to come to the country illegally, and nobody does that. Nobody creates an incentive to break the law. The whole thing is so asinine. You can't even argue it with people with a straight face. Who has a policy that says, I'm offering you an incentive to break the law? Who does that?
Well,
it's crazy.
Look, that's exactly right. And, you know, there's a very interesting point here. Right now, the case is being made in the media that all the members of the Dreamer program are excellent young men and women. They're almost all, by the way, adults at this point. They're not children, really. or many of them are adults. Most of them are adults, and they talk about the achievements that they've done. I've gone to college. I'm in community college. I've got a job. I've achieved this. I've gotten this award. Well, yeah, and simultaneously, why wasn't some of that effort put into becoming legal?
Right.
Why just simply say, well, I'm illegal under the American law, and that's okay with me. I'm just going to go about my business. I think that this is a problem that is yet to be solved, but I think that the president has brought it to the forefront and has demanded that it be dealt with. So really, what's going on here is that Trump is making us address issues in a positive way that, frankly, the past administration just let lie. And I think that he did no favors to these so-called dreamers by leaving them in an illegal status and deferring the reality of the American law.
Right. I think we're on the same page on that. There's got to be a policy. We have 690,000 people that went through the process. What do we do with them? Then what do we go forward? But I'm in agreement with you. I mean, and I've never heard anybody say that with such clarity. All these people that they're valedictorian, making the effort to stay in the country legally because they're here illegally. And nobody wants to really talk. That's like the adult in the room having a conversation. That's the adult conversation that we seem to be lacking in this argument. Okay, let's get to the Trump, Democrat, Schumer, Pelosi deal. Now, people that are for Trump like me, I popped the champagne that Friday when he made the deal. I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread because I don't think much of Republican leadership. So I was happy to see Trump break out of the box. What say you?
Well, I say that he's going to be disappointed in the long run. The one thing about the American left, it is that it is relentless. It knows exactly what it's trying to do. And that is to not build up the economy, not create jobs, not to encourage investment, not to do a tax reform to increase investment. They want to just simply transfer money from one American to another American. And I say that we have to have a tax reform, and the president says we have to have a tax reform, and I want that to be to increase investment and growth and building up the pie in this country as opposed to just slicing the pie up for different people. But the American left is relentless. They will exploit this in order to kick the can down the road on the debt limit. But the fact is the American people understand that you just simply cannot go on forever building up debt. This morning, they're reporting the debt of the United States is $20 trillion. Well, the gross domestic product of the United States is $19 trillion. So we're now over that one-to-one margin that is dangerous. So in short, there's this. I don't think that we're in a position to win these debt ceiling arguments. Every time that you begin to, and the Freedom Caucus wants to fight over the debt ceiling, they get smashed because you simply cannot not fulfill the debt obligations of the government of the United States of America. That's a losing fight. But the underlying fight, which is how you're going to control the debt, remains unresolved. And the Trump-Pelosi-Schumer deal keeps it unresolved. Trump wants to avoid the losing battle. The Democrats want to keep on marching ahead towards their socialist approach. And so I think this is a short-term fix, but not a long-term solution.
If you are the Republican nominee for U.S. Senate in 2018, Governor Gilmore, can you beat Tim Kaine?
Well, first of all, we don't know that. I think what we need to do is to measure whether or not the people of Virginia say it's time for a change. And Hillary Clinton carried Virginia, but that was a presidential election. It will be an off election in 2018. But the question is, do the people want to see a change? And I think that there has never been a true measure of what Tim Kaine's credentials are. He is a moderate, but I think the real question is it really shifting and characterizing that as moderation? He is a gun owner, but yet he implements gun control measures all the time and has a 0 rating by the NRA and 100% for the Brady Foundation. He's against abortion because he's a good Catholic, but he does things all the time that facilitate the ability for abortions to occur. He shifts is the point. he shifts on issues quite a bit. And so the question is, where's the core of that senator? And the bigger question is, are the people of Virginia interested in having a senator that has core values or not? And we don't know the answer to that yet. We know that Virginia went for Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that Tim Kaine, I think, behaved badly in the vice presidential debate. So let's wait and let's measure this and see whether or not there's a sense that it's time for a change.
Final question: the North Korean regime the other day firing another ICBM test. They said they have a hydrogen bomb. If you were in the Senate, how would you want to deal with that?
Well, boy, that's a tough one, because we are in a tough position because of inactivity of President Obama, people before him, and frankly, members of the U.S. Senate who carry this responsibility in the Senate. They've been passive, and now we're in a really tough situation here. First of all, nobody wants to see bloodshed certainly not of the scale that would be necessary to solve this problem. Look, there's a real debate going on right now in Washington. I saw a very good article the other day that pointed out that the Israelis had a particular point of view on this, and that is you got to stop it early before it's too late. And they have done that repeatedly. And that's why they objected to the Iran deal, because they felt like that was not stopping it early, even though they had stopped the Iraqis early. And I think there's some argument to say we need to stop the Koreans early before it's too late. But I think that a way of doing that might be to more or less embargo that country. And I think that the Chinese are going to have to understand that if they want to have decent relations with the United States, and I think they do, then they're going to have to cooperate with the United States in protecting its own safety and national interests. But we have debates also going on right now with the Chinese as well. In fact, I'm not 100% sure that the North Koreans aren't stalking horses just with the Chinese and the Russians, just to test the United States and see whether or not our resolve is really there. But I think we've kicked that can down the road too long now, and we're facing a real confrontation that President Trump's going to have to deal with.
All right, that's going to be the final word from former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore, mulling, I guess that's the right word, considering, mulling, evaluating, courts out on whether or not he will run for U.S. Senate in 2018. He is the last man standing, in my judgment, between Corey Stewart and the 2018 Republican Virginia nomination for U.S. Senate. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Governor, thank you for being with us. Always a pleasure to have you on. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your listeners.